то, на что направлен закон, это как раз-таки этим детям сказать, что с ними что-то не так, что они больны, что их запропагандировали, и значит, они не настоящие.
This is Regina Zhukaeva, a Russian LGBT plus activist. In 2013, the Russian parliament adopted the so-called gay propaganda law, making Russia even more hostile for LGBT plus people. Shamefully similar laws are now spreading. On June 15th, Hungary's parliament passed Russian-style legislation that bans any content that features or mentions LGBT plus characters or any support for the LGBT plus community. Let's call this as it is, an anti-LGBT plus law. In Russia, the effects are devastating, especially on young LGBT plus people.
Because of this law, in fact, minors do not get support from psychologists or social workers, because psychologists and social workers are afraid that they can be punished under the propaganda law.
Svetlana Zakharova works for the Russian LGBT Network, the largest LGBT plus organization operating in Russia.
Сходство российского закона о гей-пропаганде и закона венгерского в том, что они оба вроде как направлены на защиту детей, но мне кажется, венгерский закон немного похлеще, ужасней, потому что звучит он как закон, направленный на защиту детей от педофилии.
It is about hatred, direct hatred about the precise community. And I think in both cases, in Russia and in Hungary, authorities want to take away the visibility from the LGBT plus community. And I think that visibility is one of the most important things.
Russia wasn't the first country to enact such law. Right here in the UK, I grew up under similar legislation, Section 28.
Children who need to be taught to respect traditional moral values are being taught that they have an inalienable right to be gay.
A whole generation of young LGBT plus kids grew up in a period when they were not getting validation and affirmation, and when many schools and teachers were afraid to give support and were afraid to tackle homophobic, biphobic and transphobic bullying.
My experience of living through Section 28 in the United Kingdom means that I worry about the rise in hate crime, about the stigmatization, the discrimination and the misrepresentation of LGBT plus people. Those attacks could come from politicians, from within the media, from institutions.
I'm very concerned about the impact that the new Hungarian law will have on LGBT plus young people in Hungary. It's going to leave them vulnerable, and it is going to mean that bullying against them in the classroom and playground will almost certainly not be tackled. We lobbied Parliament and government ministers, organised petitions, held protests and rallies in the street, and we built a very wide, broad coalition of civil society organisations. But perhaps most effectively, we contacted TV, radio and the press and introduced them to young LGBT people and their parents who were able to speak about the negative impacts of this legislation. And those personal stories had a huge positive impact in changing public opinion and changing the hearts and minds of politicians.
I think the best way to defeat this law is the way we've defeated others, which is to gain more allies, put the case plainly and reasonably how equality and the equal protection of the law affects and improves the lives of every single one of us.
Do not give up. Continue your efforts. I am sure that there are more supporters in Hungary than you think. I am sure that in both our countries there are more good people than bad ones. Do not give up, stay strong, Know that you have support from us, from LGBT plus activists in Russia, from international community, and be proud of who you are.